Greetings and salutations. I hope everyone is doing well and welcome to today's upload. Before we jump into it, a couple quick links. As many of you may know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. These audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click the like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads that I put out daily, click the bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment and share the video. Why? Well, because all of these things, they really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. They definitely do matter, and they are appreciated. And with that, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to today's upload, shall we? All right, so today's upload is going to be broken into two parts. Two really interesting things that I'd like to share with you guys. One of them being the recent attacks in Arkansas. Now, I had briefly commented on them when they occurred. The first one, clearly a bear attack. The bear was seen attacking a father. The son was the one who witnessed it. And then there was another attack a month later in the same neck of the woods, in the Ozark region. And the only thing that separated the two attacks was a river. Now, I purposely didn't jump into it because I like to see where the news is going to take us. I wait, one, because I don't want to make an assumption. I will share, like, when Corey Godsey was attacked, Brenda Hamilton was attacked. Obviously, when Amber Miller and Tony Aarons were attacked, Tony Aarons was like brief. And then when Amber Miller was attacked in the same location and exactly the same scenario of the attack went down. So those were, evidence was boom, right there. With this, it was and it wasn't. And I know that David Paulides had talked about both attacks and agreed with the first one not being the Vernon Patton one, not being a Dogman or not being a cryptid. The second one, we didn't even know who the guy was that was attacked. There was a lot of secrecy behind it, which really at that point pointed at there possibly being a cover-up. And now it's coming out that there definitely is. I ended up speaking to a person earlier today who actually works in the Ozarks, and he works with the Parks Division. He's not a forest ranger or a park ranger. He works within the Parks Division of Arkansas, and he and I spoke briefly. We're going to speak some more later today. So I'll have the full rundown of exactly what he knows. He specifically said, Jeff, it is not a bear attack. The first one definitely was. And the second one was not. It wasn't a Bigfoot. It wasn't the crawlers. It more than likely 100% was a Dogman. Everything points to that, right to the paw prints that were found. And so I'll share a little bit of information that he shared with me right now. But the second part is something that I really want to talk about, because for the longest time, I've been talking about the shadow government, the Illuminati, the 13 families of the Illuminati, how they control what is going on within humanity. They are not the leaders of the Luciferian agenda. But I had numerous times talked about how it's quite evident that our government, the Nazi regime, and other governments were dealing with these alien/demonic creatures. Our presidents decided to give them access to human beings, and they granted us advanced technology beyond our capability of, I want to be as bold as saying beyond our understanding at that point. And then I got to look deeper into it. And when we talk about the Watchers and how they came to Earth and they taught ancient man things, forbidden knowledge, things that God did not want us to learn. They were cast out of heaven. Then they started to procreate with the daughters of man. They started to genetically experiment and procreate with the beasts of the earth, creating the Nephilim. Now, there's in the Book of Giants, in the Book of Enoch, they talk about that, and they talk about how some of the giants looked human, but just of great stature, and some of these breeds were not. Some were half animal, half beast, actually, is what they, half beast, half human, or half man. That information that the ancient men were taught was forbidden for a reason. And when the Watchers taught men that, like I said, cast out of heaven, but there was an agenda. There was a plan, and it was the Luciferian agenda. And I believe that's how long it goes around for, and has been going for. But there's something way more sinister, and I believe I have proof. And I'm going to share that with you shortly. But the end all of the Luciferian agenda is the end of mankind, is essentially what they want. And they did it at one point. They almost succeeded at one point thousands of years ago. And there's evidence of that. And I found it, and I want to share it with you. But I also want to state the fact that they're doing it exactly right now, the same thing that they did thousands of years ago to modern man right now. Let's jump into the bear attack out of Arkansas, and then jump into this other information, because it's disturbing. It is very disturbing to me, and And I don't like to, I usually don't like to talk about stuff like this because it's so disturbing, but I think it's time that we really understand how, the book, Skinwalkers at the Pentagon, that right there, that one book, there is just a couple of sentences in that book that show us the connection of how it is all connected, how shadow humans, orbs, and cryptids are all connected. There is not a difference in the things that occur. Poltergeists, shadow humans, orbs, Dogman, Bigfoot, all of this is connected. It's in that book, and it all comes from the Luciferian agenda. Let me jump into the Arkansas cover-up right now. So, like I said in the very beginning, one of them was a bear attack. So we'll start with that. Arkansas bear attack victim Vernon Patton has died. September 15th, 2025. Vernon Patton, a 72-year-old man from Franklin County, who was attacked by a bear on September 3rd, died Sunday, according to Arkansas Game and Fish Commission. Immediately following the attack, Patton was airlifted to Washington Regional Medical Center in Fayetteville for surgery before being relocated to the University of Arkansas for medical science. Though there was initially some hope that Patton may pull through, his family issued a statement to 4029 News last week saying his injuries are extensive and ultimately not survivable. Patton was reportedly working outside in the Mulberry Mountain area when the incident occurred. The bear was in the process of attacking him when Patton's son showed up to check on his dad and started throwing rocks at him. Keith Stevens, the chief of communications for the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission, states, "It was a pretty severe attack," Stevens states. "It attacked him in its face, arms, and his upper body. The bear, which Stevens identified as a yearling, weighed about 70 pounds, remained close by. Officers saw the bear in the area, and it was not very far from the attack where it had taken place. So they went over, the bear climbed a tree, and they put it down. After the shooting and killing of the bear, Arkansas Game and Fish Commission officers sent samples of the body to be tested for rabies and distemper. Both were negative. More tests are still being conducted to better understand what may have caused the attack." So, Mulberry Mountain is in the vicinity of the Ozarks. It's in the vicinity of where the next gentleman was attacked. But the real deal is it wasn't a bear. And the evidence is coming out more and more right now as I'm sharing this with you guys. The Mulberry River is essentially what separates Franklin County from Mount Judah, Arkansas. That's how close these two attacks were. That's why they assumed it was a bear. They did find large paw prints. When you find paw prints that are abnormally large, you are not going to think, "Oh, that's a dog. That's a really big dog." No, they were not. They were two back paw prints of the back legs, very large. And there had been bear seen in the area. So after the gentleman, his first name is Max. We'll get into more of that. After he was attacked, and they did end up putting down, euthanizing one of these bears. Well, the evidence is pointing to, hey, it's not that bear. It's not any of the bears. It clearly was. Now we're getting the cover-up region. So here's the evidence that I have right now for you. And then, like I said, a person that works for the Arkansas Parks Division. I'm going to talk to him later on today and share more of that information for you guys. He's got some detailed information that he's going to write out and share with me. And then I will go ahead and share it with you. Hopefully I can get him to come on and share. I'm not really sure yet, being that he still works for the Parks Division. So is the update to the second attack. I will share. Actually, what I'll do is I'll share the original. This is before we knew the gentleman's name. Death of a man found at Sam Thorne's campground in Newton County on Thursday has been ruled as an animal mauling, with a manner of death determined to be an accident, authorities said on Friday. Newton County Sheriff's Glenn Wheeler said the Arkansas State Crime Lab medical examiner confirmed the cause of death, but noted the DNA testing is still underway to determine the species involved. This confirms our suspicions, and I appreciate the quick work of the medical examiner getting us and the family primarily answers. Wheeler said in a statement, I also understand their desire to confirm the species of the animal via DNA just to cover all of the bases. The sheriff said Sam Thorne's and the surrounding areas remain closed while officials continue efforts to locate the animal believed responsible. Wheeler said investigators believe the bear involved was a juvenile male, recently separated from its mother, and is not a large animal. If we encounter bear in the area through trapping or hunting with dogs, we'll be able to rule out most based on photos and identifying the markings, said Wheeler. The incident marks the second fatal bear attack reported in Arkansas this year. In Franklin, 72-year-old Vernon Patton died September 14th after being mauled by a bear earlier in the month on Mulberry Mountain. The Arkansas Game and Fish Commission said the two wildlife officers killed the animal at the scene, which witnesses described as a smaller bear. Game and Fish have said the bear attacks in Arkansas are extremely rare, and that no similar fatal incidences are documented in recent history. So here's the second, or the update. This is October 6th. Authorities have identified the man killed in a bear attack last week at Sam Thorne's campground near Mount Judah, Arkansas, as 60-year-old Max Thomas of Springfield, Missouri. Newton County Sheriff's Glenn Wheeler said Thomas had been camping in the area and stopped contacting his family, who then alerted the sheriff's office. Deputies later found his body several yards from the campsite. An extensive effort involved multiple agencies and local hunters. Officers began searching for the bear believed responsible. On Sunday, October 5th, hounds treat a bear in the same area where Thomas was attacked. Officials said the bear matched photos taken by the victim and others in the weeks before the incident. The bear's body has been sent to Little Rock for a necropsy and DNA testing to confirm its identity. Sheriff Wheeler said he is confident the animal is responsible, calling the situation tragic but necessary for public safety. Max was a husband and a dad who leaves behind several loved ones. Wheeler states, while it is unfortunate it had to end this way, human life is vastly more important and public safety takes priority. Sam Thorne's campground and surrounding area remains closed while officials await test results and remove traps and equipment. Now, there had been photos of the alleged bear that had been seen around the camp, and in the area. I believe there was a trail cam that he had set up that captured photos of it. And a few other people have just captured it via camera as well. So they shot this bear and they because it matched the description of the one in the picture. You can see the pictures if you look up the case. It is not a 70-pound bear. It's much larger than the one that attacked Vernon Patton. But it is definitely not the one responsible. Here's the next article. Each article you get a little more. I found when there is a cover-up that each article in the vicinity for some reason has different news or different information. Instead of putting it all into one, which would be the most logical, they tend to mix it up. Like when Tony Aarons and Amber Miller were both attacked. One of the news articles did not state anything about footprints or paw prints being found. Brenda Hamilton, when she was attacked, one of the articles never talked about a animal being attacked by Brenda. I believe it's a capybara. And South Carolina has a small population of them there, but then a few did. So it's weird how they do it and why they do it, and they do it to confuse us. So this is another article, a little bit more information. Authorities shoot and kill black bear believed to have fatally mauled man in Arkansas, October 6th. Same day as the first article that I shared. Mount Judah, Arkansas officials shot and killed a male black bear that they believe fatally mauled a 60-year-old Missouri man last week at his campsite in the Ozark National Forest, authorities said on Monday. The body of Max Thomas of Springfield, Missouri, was discovered Thursday, several yards outside of Sam Thorne's campground in northwest Arkansas, Newton County Sheriff Glenn Wheeler states. A deputy had gone to the campground after the man's son reported he had not heard from his dad, who had sent the family pictures of a black bear at his camp Tuesday morning, Wheeler states. The deputy found evidence of a struggle and injury, including drag marks from the campground into the woods. We believe he was in the process of breaking down his camp when the attack occurred. The state medical examiner's office determined the man's death to be an animal mauling. On Sunday, a bear was caught on a trail cam near the campground that appeared to be the same animal photographed by the victim and encountered by another man at a roadside overlook in the area, Wheeler states. Local hunters and hounds were brought into the area and quickly tracked the bear, which was killed and transported to Little Rock, where authorities will obtain DNA samples to confirm it was the bear that fatally attacked the man. We knew the bear in the photos was a male, and this one is too, Wheeler says in a press release. It matches the size of the photographed bear and has the same facial colorations. Not to mention, it was back in the same area where the attack had happened. It is the second fatal bear attack in Arkansas in recent weeks. In September, a 72-year-old man died from being attacked by a bear in nearby Franklin County, according to the authorities with the Arkansas Game and Fish. Despite the recent attacks, Don White Jr., a large mammal ecologist at the University of Arkansas in Monticello, said fatal bear attacks in Arkansas are exceedingly rare. The last confirmed fatal bear attack in Arkansas was 1892. And Keith Stevens, a spokesperson for the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission, although black bear were common in Arkansas before European settlement, the numbers dwindled to fewer than 50 by the 1930s. Those numbers have continued to climb since the reintroduction of hundreds of black bear into the Ozark Mountains of Arkansas in the 50s and 60s, with an estimated 5,000 in the state now, while White said that figure is difficult to pinpoint. This is the update. Arkansas Game and Fish Commission announced Thursday that the black bear shot and killed in Newton County in the wake of a deadly attack on a camper earlier this month was not in fact the bear responsible for the camper's death. Max Thomas, 60 years old, of Springfield, Missouri, was apparently killed by a bear while camping at Sam Thorne's recreational area in the Ozark National Forest. His body was found October 2nd. On October 4th, authorities located and shot a bear they believed that killed Thomas. Newton County Sheriff Glenn Wheeler said at the time he was extremely confident it was the same bear based on photographic evidence. Since then, we've been awaiting the result of the DNA testing to confirm that assumption. The labs are back, and the results are negative. That means the bear that killed Max Thomas is presumably still at large. I love the wording, presumably. Well, if it was a black bear, where the hell else would it be? Presumably. Assumptions. I like how they called him on his assumption, though. I really do. But keywords like that, the presumably, is what I look for. Because what else would it be? If that's what you're telling the public that it is, what else would it be? Here's the thing. Why would he jump to conclusions and say, he is extremely confident? He could just say, we shot a bear that resembles the photos that we have of the bear seen in the area, and I'm going to submit these and wait for the results before I share any more information. That's what, in my eyes, what a official would do. Not steer the public with word salad. The Game and Fish Commission said it had traps and game cameras in the area sent shortly after the attack. Only one bear had been seen on the game camera, and no bears have been caught in any traps or deployed in the area. Thomas, a resident of Springfield, Missouri, had been camping alone in Sam Thorne in late September. On the morning of September 30th, he had texted his family a picture of a small bear in his camp. 2 days later, after he had stopped communicating with his family, they contacted Newton County Sheriff's Office to request a welfare check. A sheriff deputy who investigated found evidence of a struggle and discovered his body in the woods with injuries that I would consider consistent with a large animal or large carnivore, Wheeler said at the time. Well, here's something to think about. Black bears are not carnivores. Black bears are omnivores. And yes, they will eat meat, but they are not on a consistent diet of meat. They are not a grizzly bear. They are not a polar bear. They are not a carnivore. They are an omnivore, Wheeler said at the time. Keith Stevens, a spokesperson for the Fish and Game, said that Thomas had been sleeping outside while he was attacked. He was open-air camping with his sleeping bag on a cot. From that point, he had been dragged 180 feet. Soon after, the bear was caught on camera in the area and appeared to be the same one in Thomas's photograph. A team of hunters, Sheriff Wheeler, and a Game and Fish employee located the animal, a yearling weighing between 150 to 175 pounds, and shot it. Like I said, the bear that they had shot was a heck of a lot bigger than the one that had killed Vernon Patton. Vernon Patton's one was about 70 pounds. I feel extremely confident that this bear we have photographs of from the scene of the attack, Wheeler said in the press release. In October, we knew the bear in the photos was a male, and this one was as well. It matches the size in the photographed bear and has the same facial colorations. Not to mention that it's back in the same area where the attack happened. That area is so heavily used by humans that most bears will avoid it. To be 100% certain, we will have to wait for a possible DNA match. But all indicators are that this is the bear responsible for the fatal attack. This is a relief to me and the community, and I thank God for this outcome. This was a dangerous bear. Those are all his assumptions. And here's the thing. They are putting this in this article. They are putting this in the same article that now tells us that it wasn't the bear. So let's say someone overlooks that little tidbit of information, because it literally was a tidbit of information compared to what I just shared, and now thinks, oh, it's like, once again, I hate using the term word salad, but it is. It's word salad. It's a mix. And that's how they confuse the public. Here's something that I was thinking about, right? They keep talking about it being the same bear. Sure. Why is it around? Because he's camping. He's not using a tent. So here's what I'm wondering is, if he's not using a tent, how many precautions did he take prior to, so this bear wouldn't come into his campsite? Was he using a bear bag? Was he, doing this? Was he doing... Because if he wasn't, sure as shit, that bear's going to come back looking for food, Just because it came back does not mean that it's not human. Like, they say a thief always returns to the site of the crime. It's a bear, And here's another thing. If no other bear has been seen or trapped, what else did it then? 180 feet is a long distance. 180 feet. A black bear. A omnivore. None of it makes sense. And I appreciate, because this information wasn't out. This information wasn't out when David Paulides had looked into this attack. This was, I believe David looked into it like in about the 6th, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But he has that same feeling I have. It's word salad. It's a mix of, improper wording, improper law enforcement, by the sheriff's office, by the Fish and Game. In my eyes, they wanted this to be the bear. I'm surprised they didn't even say, I'm surprised. Here's my surprise, is they even shared that the DNA didn't match, just to keep it quiet. Black bear attacks are rare and fatal attacks are exceedingly rare. North American Bear Center estimates there have been less than one deadly attack per year in North America. But remarkably, the attack on Thomas is the second fatal bear attack in Arkansas in less than a month. Why are we saying it's a bear when we don't know if it was now? There's another hint. On September 3rd, a young bear attacked a Franklin County man, 72-year-old Vernon Patton, who died of his injuries 11 days later. The bear was killed by Game and Fish. Soon after, testing showed that it did not have rabies or distemper, but was also revealed it was malnourished, an unusual condition for wild bear in September, when food sources are abundant, and was suffering from neurological problems. A necropsy revealed that the Franklin County bear was suffering from microscopic abnormalities in the spinal cord and brain, Fish and Game states. Last documented fatal bear attack in Arkansas, 1892. That means there have been 2 deadly attacks within weeks of each other after 120 years without one. Which naturally raises the question whether something could link the 2 recent incidents, though the attacks occurred in different non-contiguous counties. They were in the same general region of the Ozarks, only 44 miles apart. Reports of a 3rd bear attack near White Rock Mountain also in Franklin earlier this month, proved to be greatly exaggerated. A bear approached a pair of backpackers while they were cooking dinner, but was soon scared away and did not touch the campers. Here's a full release from the Fish and Game announcing a negative DNA result from Newton County bear. This is the results. Little Rock, Arkansas Game and Fish Commission today announced that final DNA analysis from the Veterinarian Forensic Science Laboratory at the University of Florida was confirmed that the DNA collected from the black bear killed in Newton County on October 4th does not match the DNA of the bear responsible for the death of the 60-year-old Max Thomas of Springfield, Missouri. Thomas was found October 2nd in Sam Thorne's campground of the Ozark National Forest. His body was discovered by Newton County sheriffs during a welfare check at Thomas's campsite requested by the man's family. A bear was euthanized by a GFC biologist 3 days after the incident, as size, physical characteristics, and photographic evidence initially pointed to the high probability that it was the one that attacked. The AGFC has had traps and game cameras in the area since shortly after the attack occurred. Only one bear had been seen on the game camera, and no bears have been caught in the area since traps have been deployed. Key findings. No match. DNA samples collected from the victim of the fatal mauling at Sam Thorne's campground in the Ozarks do not match DNA profile of a male black bear killed in the immediate area. Concerns. Because the bear responsible for the attack is still at large, the AGFC is continuing efforts to locate and safely remove the animal from the vicinity. Safety measures remain. Sam Thorne's campground and surrounding public areas remain closed to ensure public safety, while the search and monitoring operations continue. The AGFC director, Doug Schonrock, states the agency will continue to be vigilant in its efforts to find the bear responsible for the attack. While we are disappointed that the initial search did not neutralize the threat, our commitment to the public safety remains prominent. AGFC Doug Schonrock states, we acted decisively based on the best evidence available at the time. And now that we have a definitive forensic data, we are adjusting our strategy. Our teams will continue to work tirelessly to find this creature. The AGFC continues to urge the citizens and visitors of the Ozark National Forest to remain bear aware. Store all food, garbage, and scented items in bear-resistant containers or secured inside a hard-sided vehicle. Never leave food unattended. Immediately report any aggressive or unafraid bear behavior to AGFC Radio Room at 1-833-356-0824. Please respect the current closures of Sam Thorne's campground and adjacent trails until further notice. And that's why I wanted to wait. That's exactly, like I said, I did comment on it. But I wanted to wait. I wanted to see and look at more details. Because the longer the case is looked at, the more details will come out. And even if it's not the details we want or whatnot, the spokespeople usually slip up by miswording things, misrepresenting things, and the media will print it as is. You know, they tend not to think. They'd rather, it's almost like that lazy man syndrome. Oh, well, this is what they said. We'll just put exactly what they said instead of, thinking it out and making it more believable of what the agencies want them to share. So, like I said, later on today, I will be speaking to somebody in the Arkansas Parks Division. He is not a park ranger. He is not a forest ranger. He works in the park division directly with forest rangers and park rangers. So let's get into today's second part of this upload. So when I am not researching, when I am not looking at attacks, when I am not looking at that flash drive that was given to me a couple years ago, which I shared some information on that during the last live stream. I don't watch other YouTube channels. I don't listen to cryptid related stuff because one, I don't watch other channels. I have my own research. I do my own research. The way I look at it is if I stay away from other people's research, I won't get jaded. I won't buy into the fact that, it's an amazing story. It's got to be true. It's like, I like to do my own research. So I don't watch other channels. What I do is I read a lot, and I watch science things. If I watch a movie, it might be a horror movie or it might be something based on world events, whatnot. And a great book that I just recently read by a woman, an amazing author named Annie Jacobson, called Nuclear War. A brilliant woman, brilliant author. She got about 6 books out. I've got 4 of them. She's got Operation Paperclip, the secret intelligence program that brought Nazi scientists to America. She's got Phenomena, the secret history of the U.S. government's investigations into extrasensory perception and psychokinesis, and Area 51, an uncensored history of America's top secret military base. So those are a few of the books she has written. As you can tell, she is in the realm of what we here like. Now, why I bring this up? Because I just watched a movie that I believe is based off of this book. That was smooth, Jeff. The movie is called House of Dynamite. And if you want to watch an incredible movie, I suggest that movie. It ends the way it needs to end, and it begins the way it needs to begin. And if you read this book, I would read this book, then watch that movie. After reading this book and then watching that movie, I started to think about something that I had talked about a long time ago. World War II. World War I happened. We were fighting in trenches. Our soldiers were in mud, getting mustard gassed, fighting with bayonets. Supposed dogmen in the battlefields at sometimes, and black dogs with burning red eyes. That was talked about during that war. World War I was a pretty unadvanced weapon war. And then World War II happened. Now, prior to World War II, Hitler was obsessed with the occult and had a lot of... Their science program was at one point better than America's. And he knew that, and we knew that. And shortly after the treaties were made. And at one point in 1947, President Truman, knew nothing about aliens prior to this. He responded quickly to keep everything about the aliens secret and established a group of 12 top military and scientific personnel to deal with them. They were known as the Majestic 12, and the group still exists today in different representatives. On September of 47, Truman caused the National Security Act to be passed, creating the Central Intelligence in order to hide the activities from the government and alien problems. CIA mind control projects began at Bethesda Naval Hospital. Project Sign was created on December 30th, 1947 at Wright Field to investigate disk technology capabilities and performance. The Navy Auxiliary Field in the Groom Mountains of Nevada was chosen as the place for the testing. That was Truman in 47. But here, 1932, Adolf Hitler directed German scientists to work on an aircraft design using advanced technology provided by the gray entities from inside the Earth. In 1933, Franklin D. Roosevelt became president of the United States. Roosevelt was a Mason at the time and interacted with the gray entities. Began with the U.S. government in the winter of 33 and 34. There were 487 flying disc sightings in Scandinavia, 240 in Norway, 96 in Sweden, 157 in Finland. So Roosevelt was the one that walked in and made the first treaty with these gray. Truman, completely unaware of anything. Eisenhower, completely unaware of anything. Once they became president, were like, holy shit, we are actually dealing with these entities. Roosevelt had made the treaty because the German technology was so good, and he's confused. He was like, what the hell is going on? Where is this coming from? And then all of a sudden, he learns about the gray. The gray then share information. Roosevelt's like, what do you need to, continue this? What was stated was access to human. I will give you great technology. You let us abduct humans. And sure enough, that's what went down. So what happened after that? We discovered the capability of nuclear weapons. And essentially, after the 2 bombs were dropped on Japan, the Soviet went in the backside and stopped the war. So, but we have all this technology. Soviets were fighting technically how we should have been fighting, technically how the Germans should have been fighting without the advanced technology. Because they weren't dealing with the gray at that point. So why would they teach us this nuclear weapon products? Why would they teach us the ability to do that? Well, Roosevelt learned through the Masonic order that the grays were real. And he was in the Scottish Rite. During that time, there's Tigger. Tigger just walked in. That's why the door opened. Now, in 53, the Pleiadians warned Eisenhower about the grays. Like, these are bad creatures. They're demons. Don't make a deal with them. don't make a deal. Like, I believe what occurs in these deep underground facilities that the aliens co-inhabitate with military, shadow government military. Yes, they are working on physical genetics and stuff like that, but being that aliens, these grays, these reptilians are demons, I believe that wholeheartedly. I believe they are also taking the souls of the abductees. And I think they've been doing it for quite a long time. Now, here's something that I tied in together. And I talked a little bit about in the beginning how the end of mankind essentially is the Luciferian agenda's big, end game. And they tried it a long time ago. Now, many of you may be familiar with, and I got this idea. I got the idea from that book, Annie Jacobsen, watching the movie House of Dynamite, thinking about things Avi Loeb has stated. Avi Loeb is the scientist who, Harvard scientist who talks a lot about Three-Eye Atlas. And he made the statement of, and many of you may be aware of this, in India, there is signs of a nuclear war. Now, that's not the only place that there are signs. There are signs in the United States. There are signs of a nuclear war all over. So, let me find this piece here. Give me 1 second. Here's something that I quickly want to emphasize. We hear about Sodom and Gomorrah, right? Being taken out by fire and brimstone. There's all of this visceral glass spotted, right? Visceral glass is glass that is formed by pressure and heat, only capable by nuclear force. Evidence of a nuclear war in ancient America. Research indicates the entire Great Lake region and beyond was subject to a particle bombardment and catastrophe nuclear irradiation that produced secondary thermoneutrons from cosmic ray interactions. The neutrons produced unusually large quantities of 239 Pu and substantially altered the natural uranium abundant ratios in artifacts and other exposed materials, including clear sediment and entire landscape. Ice cores show that at the end of the last ice age, temperatures increased steadily for the next 1,000 years. Traces of copper, tin, and lead show marked increase. Older Dryas period ends abruptly and dramatic drop of temperatures. Extinction of mammoth as well as megafauna of North and South America took place about this same time. Uranium concentrations in coral jumped dramatically from 1.5 parts per million to over 4 parts per million within this period of time. Then you have whole cities being wiped out. There we go. Anywhere there would be evidence of this very interesting glass. Trying to find it for you guys right now. I believe it's right here. So this vitreal glass, a mysterious glass, had been found. One of the strangest mysteries of ancient Egypt is that one of the great glass sheets that were only discovered in 1932. In December of that year, Patrick Clayton, a surveyor for Egypt Geology and Survey, was driving along the dunes of the Great Sand Sea near the Sod Plateau, virtually uninhabited area just north of the southwestern corner of Egypt, when he heard his tires crunch on something that was not sand. It turned out to be a large piece of marvelously clear yellow-green glass. So what I'm trying to get at is the agenda, the Luciferian agenda at this point now, or during the period of the World War II, they gave us that technology to pretty much end everything, to claim our souls, to claim, that's the only thing I can come up with. But thousands of years ago, there were advanced civilizations on Earth. And these demonic alien creatures, using portals to travel from wherever to wherever, hell to here to there, just like the Watchers came down, gave us information. I believe that's the reason why God cast the Watchers out, was because he didn't want us to be given a information to create a weapon to destroy ourselves. He created us in his image. Why would he want to give a race of people created in his image the power, the information, the education to create something to wipe ourselves out with? He wouldn't. That's why they were cast out. I believe this. The evidence, thousands of years ago, in the Euphrates Valley, uncovered a layer 8,000 years old that have this fused green glass. This fused green glass, this vitrified glass, is found in Lebanon. It's Lebanon silica glass, it's technically called, or vitrified. Tutankhamun's, that glass had been found in Tutankhamun's in his tomb. So we've got it in Scotland, Egypt. It was found in America, like I stated, France, Turkey, Middle East, obviously the Middle East. The Greeks wrote about the Atlanteans. They wrote about these Atlanteans having these plasma guns and this ability to create an atomic warfare, where these chemical fireballs, we know it as, or we call it Greek fire, but it wasn't a Greek fire at that time. They were creating something much more powerful. But if you think about the Greek fire, like even that is unimaginably dangerous. Greek fire consisted of pitch, sulfur, tow, granulated frankincense, and pine sawdust and sacks that you would ignite if you want to set anything afire. But that Greek fire isn't going to create pressure and heat enough to make that vitrified glass. Vitrified glass being found in California's Death Valley. During that period of time, they were finding 9-foot skeletons. I mean, you're finding evidence of a nuclear war thousands of years ago. And at that same point, you're discovering a lost civilization of 9 feet tall humanoid creatures in California caverns. And they believed it to be the lost city of Atlantis. These 9 feet tall, which they contained mummies of men and animals, implements of a culture from 80,000 years ago. So 80,000 years ago, these things were, they have been trying to wipe us out since the dawn of man. The second they realized that we were created in God's image, that we had a soul, that we were, that they could thrive and get stronger if we became soulless and they took our souls. Essentially, this Luciferian agenda has been going on to end humanity. You've got Sodom and Gomorrah. The descriptions in the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah almost are like Nagasaki and Hiroshima. India, evidence of India, or the evidence in India are immense there. I want to share this part with you. Atlantis was not pleased with humiliating defeat. Therefore, used the most powerful weapon. Okay, so while the Indian epic go on to tell us the Atlanteans. Hang on. Last bit of information that points to this being true, this Luciferian agenda trying to wipe out mankind since the dawn of man, is a 10,000-year-old text out of the ancient Mahabharata. A single projectile charged with the power of the universe, an incandescent column of smoke and flame, as bright as 1,000 suns, rose in its splendor. It was an unknown weapon, an iron thunderbolt, a gigantic messenger of death, which reduced to ashes the entire race of the Varisians and the Anthekis. The corpses were so badly burned as to be unrecognizable. The hair and nails fell out. Pottery broke within the apparent cause. And the birds turned away. After a few years or hours, the foodstuff were infected to escape from the fire. The soldiers threw themselves in steams to wash themselves and their equipment. So, and then we have evidence of stargates being found in India, Egypt, and other places in the Middle East. Supposedly one in modern day Iraq, which would be Babylon. You have all of this evidence of a nuclear war throughout the world. A world war, essentially what it would be if one happened today. It would be a world war, except millions of more people would die because there wasn't even that many people on Earth at the point it is now. In these just vile alien / demon Luciferian agenda Illuminati creatures, they just want our souls. That's why they gave us this power. Essentially, that's why they did it. And as I'm thinking about this earlier today, I was like, holy shit. I'm like, it all adds up. It all adds up. These creatures hate mankind so much that they just messed with us as like we were like a toy, cat and mouse. I don't know. I to me, it's clear. To you, it may not be. But pretty damn interesting. With that, I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. It is your support that helps the channel to continue to grow and go, and what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories, judgment-free. Everyone is simply treated with the respect that we deserve. Please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and our friends. These creatures are real. These events have happened. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless you all.